Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Medicine for These Times. I'm so excited to be sharing this conversation with my group mastermind client and peer and friend, Rebecca Llewellyn. Hi, Rebecca. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Ah, so happy to have you here. What a journey it's been to watch your expansion and see you grow. And wow, this work that you're doing in the world is just, it really, talking to you as we were talking before off camera, it really reminds me how important this is and how there's so many great people doing such deep healing work that is so needed right now on planet Earth. So thank you so much for all you do.
And
Love
thank
it.
you, Beth. You're
Mm.
bringing us together and helping us stand in a strong foundation. So thank you for your medicine. We need you.
Oh, thank you. So let me tell people a little bit about you. Rebecca is a multidimensional medicine woman who is a shamanic practitioner, a double certified breathwork practitioner, mentor, channel, and guide for those on their path of spiritual and personal transformation, and has been walking the path of spirit and service for over 15 years. Her personal background is rooted in the arts as a musical theater performer, which led her into a 12-year career in the corporate sector where she specialized in client relations. Rebecca understands people and supports souls who are seeking a deeper connection to spirituality and self actualization. As a multidimensional medicine woman and mentor, she helps you achieve this by teaching and sharing technologies and modalities so that you are empowered on your personal and spiritual journey. And you can check out her links and get her free gift right here in all the show notes. Rebecca, I absolutely love interviewing my clients because although I know a lot about your path and
Yeah.
what you've been up to and what you do and what you're stepping into, let's hear your story. I always love to know, like, how did you get started, not only on the medicine path but this healing path,
Mhm.
and then also, where does your former career come in, and then where's your this service career come in, and like what sparked it off?
Wow, that's a big one. Do we have enough time?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so funny because everything is on purpose, and
Mm.
everything brought me to this now moment. Everything prepared me to this now moment. So as a child, I was quite open, and but I scared quite easily. And so I would shut down. So I would open up, I would shut down, I would open up, I would shut down. And it started to get bigger for me in my teen years. And, I started to explore religion. And because I would feel in, I grew up, we would go to we'd go to church on Sunday with my dad. And I loved singing, and I could feel something move through me when we sang. And so, but then I got fed up with religion. It didn't feel right. It felt uncomfortable in my body. And I started dating religion at like 14, 15. And my dad just let me go for it. And I was like hanging out with the Baptists, and then I was hanging out with the Mormons, and then I was hanging out, like I was trying everything on for size. At the same time, my dad was buying me books. Like Rosemary Althea, The Eagle and the Rose. So I was reading that kind of stuff in my teens and starting to understand bigger concepts than what I was learning in church, right? So I guess I sort of stepped into new age and around like 17, 18, 19. But life was hard, and my parents divorced and all those things. So there was all the human stories that were happening for me. And I was very much in a victim space. Um, at the same time, opening up. So that led me to, so sidebar, I studied theater. I went to Canada's version of fame, Etobicoke School of the Arts, and I studied theater. And theater is kind of what saved, musical theater, singing and performing, kind of saved my life. I could have gone down a different path. um, and so I always liken it, I'm just in the healing arts now. I've shifted, in that space. But through that time, the channeling was happening, and especially after really long, and when I was in college, really long, exhaustive tech days or rehearsal days, and you're going over things for hours and hours again. I'd go to bed and I would feel, beings at the end of my bed and telling me it's okay, you can rest. And, or I would have these dreams, and I would, somebody's passed over, and I get this information. But sometimes it was too much for me. My nervous system couldn't handle it. So I would shut down completely. And then I'd be closed for like 2 years, and then I'd open up again. So that was really kind of like the beginning of my journey, but there was nothing formal. Okay. There was no real internet at that time. I'm a year away from 50. So I was like books. And there were new age stores, bookshops and things. That's where I would go and consume. Um, and on my artistic, I guess, trajectory, I was burning out because I was at a very high level of performance. And so by my early 20s, I ran away to cruise ships. I didn't want to be headed to Broadway anymore. I ran away to cruise ships, and I quickly became a cruise director. Now on the ships, which then kind of led me to corporate, right? Because by the peak of my career, I'm responsible for raising, or getting the sales to be $4 million a month kind of thing. Right. And then so I was too young to have that kind of responsibility, but I was kind of paving my way for stepping into corporate. But on those vessels, those big ships, I started to have some very big experiences, because there's a lot of souls at sea and entities and things like that. Again, they got bigger, and then I would shut down because I would get scared. I went through Hurricane Katrina. We were talking about New Orleans earlier. My ship was one of those ships that was chartered by FEMA. I have this whole journey that changed my life. I knew I had to make a change. I wasn't listening. And I always saw myself when I was on the stage, there'd be 2,500 people in the audience type of thing. I always envisioned myself when I was on the stage as a lighthouse. This is, again, before me understanding energy. Okay. So, but I could see that I was this lighthouse, and my heart had a sweep of light that would move through the audience. And that's how I would know I was doing a quote unquote good job. When that light started to go like this, and I could feel my lighthouse was dimming and it was exhausting me, I knew I had to get off the ships. And I think I was gone for about 8 years. So Katrina was kind of like the last end for me. I knew I wanted to come back to land. I was a bit unanchored. My family's all over the place. I came back to Canada. I needed a job. I knew the minimum I needed to make it. I bought a place sight unseen, and I stepped into not for profit. And that's when I began my career with client relations, which then led me to working for the most expensive one of the most privileged private schools in Canada. And I was the director of development. I was in China, twice a year, 7 cities, 12 days, working very big deals, support, like raising lots of money for big campaigns. All the while, I'm still a sensitive. I'm still an empath. In my early 30s, so I came back to Canada, I think around 33, my Jesus year. So in and around that time, I was going through a big, massive shift. My body, I was very unwell. I've always had this history around my reproductive organs, and lots of cancer scares, all these things. So I started to work with Western medicine was failing me, and they wanted to do certain things. And I finally said, no, this isn't right. And I started working with a naturopath, never done that before. We had lots of success, but there was some that wasn't working. So at this point, I probably shut down for a couple of years. And I remember her saying to me, I think I can't do anymore. You need to see my Reiki practitioner. I'm like, what is this, said Reiki? No idea, no clue. I'm about 33. So I started working with who became my Reiki master. And that's when it all started up. So I would consider her my first formal teacher. Now, I feel really lucky to have worked with her. I'm going to give her an acknowledgement, Danny Lynn. Her integrity was so strong. She's my first teacher about integrity and discernment. So now it's very easy to get certified in so many different things, but she would not allow anyone to get certified unless they had been seeing her for as a client for 6 months. She's like, you have to do your work. I'm not just going to pass on this information. So that was really the beginning. And then I started there was a school in Toronto called Transformational Arts College. So I started taking some courses, and I just kept moving. And so I started doing Reiki in my little condo at night and on the weekends. And when I met my husband, I met him late in life. I was about 37. I remember having a conversation with him saying, this is what I do. This is what I see. I'm committed to this path. And if you can't honor it or respect it, then this isn't going to work. And we've been together almost 13 years now. So that is really how they kind of merged. But I was in the closet for a long time. And so how I began was through, I guess, formally through Reiki, because for many of us, it's a gateway, the attunement, but very quickly it wasn't my medicine. I never had, even though I'm a Reiki master, I very, very much understood the discernment that I never had the permission truly to attune people. And I think that's really important. We have to really sit with discernment and integrity, and like, just because we can purchase things doesn't mean we have the permission to serve things. But I give gratitude to the Reiki because it opened me in a new way, in a formal way, and started to give me tools on how to work with the channel that I am, that we all are. And it quickly became energy medicine. So the truth is, for many years, I was only working upper realms, right? I was only working angelic realms, really ascended masters, angelic realms, and working with energy and the emotional body. My career's increasing. My career's, and here I built a career on working with incredibly affluent people. Um, very educated people. I never felt I could talk about what I was doing. I started to come out of the spiritual closet as I got deeper into my career. And like my boss, the principal of the college who I used to travel with, I mean, I used to get picked up in Bentleys, I started to tell him, because when I was in China, so China is an important part on my journey. China is where I had a massive cracking open or initiation. I would get into the cab and the cars, and I would see things. I'm not working in shamanism yet. Okay. But I would start to see things. I would start to see entities. I would start to see talons attacking us. I would start to see. So China was very hard on my body, and I didn't quite have, I didn't have a shamanic perspective yet. So it just was kind of scary for me. But nearing the end of my time at that one particular college, we were, sometimes I'd have, that itinerary would usually be 40 business meetings in a span of 7 cities and 12, 13 days. It's a lot, right? It's a lot. So I was literally trains, planes, automobiles, and a lot of tea, a lot of meals. And we would be, because it's client relations, it can take up to a year. And it's the same thing if you're a solopreneur. It can take up to a year of someone listening to your story and feeling before they build your trust, right? Like before they trust you. And so that's the work I was doing. So I would spend time, in this one particular parent wanted to take us to one of the oldest monasteries. I want to say we were in Hangzhou. And so because of the Cultural Revolution, there's a lot that no longer exists, right? So there is quite a bit of density that I was experiencing that I didn't quite understand, because again, I wasn't walking the path of shamanism yet. And we had walked through the part of this, this beautiful, this space. It's all the grottos. You're seeing the Buddhas, all the things. And then we're walking into the new part. We're coming into a temple. And all of a sudden, all the monks are coming out and they're scanning their thumbs. Like, I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, they have to scan their thumbs to come in to pray. And there's young ones all the way to like the oldest, the elders are coming in. But I saw a singing bowl that was like half the size of my living room. It was massive. And here we are, we're coming in, and it just was feeling, I was just like, oh, I'm in a suit, I'm in heels, I'm feeling tight. Yeah. And I'm standing behind this very affluent man. I'm standing beside my very, powerful boss. And this huge singing bowl gets knocked. And everything in me just kind of went, and I started sobbing, Beth, like uncontrollably, reminiscent to when I lived in Italy and I didn't understand when my ex and I would walk into different places, I'd have these big visceral responses, and he just didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to deal with it. So here I am trying to keep it together. But my boss is like, okay, now your woo is really, he was kind of starting to understand my woo. And I was, it was funny. But this was serious. Like I was having a very visceral, physical, and emotional response in China, in Hangzhou, um, in a suit. So I come home. I was 39. I'm 39. I come home. My birthday, this was early December. My birthday is January 13th. And I'm going to be 40. I come home. I see my practitioner. She kind of like helps me get back into gear, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? Sorry. Oh, I just swore.
Okay.
She helps me. She's like, you're cracking. This is big. It's important. You need to like not bypass it. Things are starting to open up for you. I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to be 40. My husband's like, let's do something. We're not married at this point. I'm like, no, I do not want pink flamingos on my lawn, and I don't want a party. So he said, let's go to Stonehenge for your birthday. So we go to Stonehenge for my birthday. I spend my 40th birthday in front of the stones. I have pictures of me eating cake. And this again, before shamanism, but I'm praying and connecting with sacred land. I come home from that trip and I have this, again, I don't have anybody navigating this with me, but I have this probably 10 to 13 foot white being. I kind of think of it as a Muppet, like it's huge, that came home with me. And every time I'm in my own like meditation space or having a bath, it was there working with me. So I liken it as a more of a galactic fae being. And so that next year, that first year of 40, every time I'm in Shavasana, all these beings started showing up. I'm like, oh, they're working on me. I'm like, what is happening? Keep in mind, I'm still in a very corporate gig and I'm trying to navigate these two worlds. And I didn't know that you could merge them together. So I'm on this path of this journey of learning, right? And I think I just kind of bumbled along for a little bit. And then I got the call to, I'd always been afraid of shamanism because of the concept of dark, of shadow, because I had this preconceived notion that it was negative or it was unsafe. So I dreamed a teacher in. I dreamed a teacher in. I prayed for a teacher to come in. And that's where Angel Deer came in for me. So that was the beginning for me. And I stepped in that first year of just walking and taking in those teachings, changed my channel, moved everything, opened up everything. And I got deeper. And that's when I stepped into the Andean Cosmovision. So the moment I stepped into that concept of prayer, because I couldn't work with prayer, it gave me such a rash, the language of it and the concept of it, keeping in mind I kind of broken up with I call him the big JC, because I was still in that religious construct. But about a couple years before that, he came to me and we had a big old conversation. And he's like, yeah, no, I've been like completely taken out of context. Look at me. I show up like this. So I started working with him again, and working with that, I call it a sacred scaffolding, opened everything up. And that's how I got here. So people look at me and they're like, huh? They like they see, huh? And it took what I call the global ceremony of the pandemic for me to find the courage to leave corporate. And so I took a global pandemic to just quit my job. Like that first year I quit my job because I felt like I was doing two jobs and it was too much and I wasn't being fulfilled. So it's been a journey. I think I only started coming out publicly really on Instagram and all the things in 20. So I was Soulful Stillness for many, many years. That was my business. And then it was very clear we had to, the soul of what I was stepping into was different. And so I birthed a new soul. Like every business has a soul, right? That's what you teach us. And that's what was already here for me. So I birthed that business again on my birthday. There's something really powerful, I think, on doing and planting seeds in and around the time we incarnated. So Divine Roots was birthed, I think it was 2018, January 13. And then I became full-time with Divine Roots in 2020. all to preface this, that I'm still doing my work, my human work, all of the crap, that the belief systems, the pattern, like we have to keep doing. I'm still doing that work, and I'm not done that work, and I'll never be done that work. And as on this path, the deeper, the more grounded we are, the more earthed we are, the more we can do, and the safer we are energetically. Yeah. So that's kind of the Reader's Digest version.
I love it because even just last night on this workshop I ran, I was like, run from anyone who says they're done doing their work, or like they're good. Because I actually do believe it's never ending. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I say, show me a holy live ascended master here on earth right now. I'm sure there's someone, I just don't know who they are.
Yeah.
But even then, they're still doing the work. Thank you so much for this story. I love it. There's actually so many similarities to my own story with the religious upbringing,
Right.
the coming back to Jesus eventually, like renewing that relationship
Right.
because, and like running, a lot of the running. And even, by the way, I even had one of my biggest, moments. There were those moments of what I call just, like a pop awakening that happened throughout my journey since I was a kid. But one of them actually happened in Hong Kong. And it was because I, like you, used to go to China and Hong Kong on business and do these like
we always completed in Hong Kong. I started in Beijing, and we would complete in Hong Kong. And that's when I actually would feel safe, when I landed in Hong Kong. I don't know if I would feel that way now because the energy has shifted so much, but that's crazy.
Yeah. And it's funny because we were the same thing. It was like you'd go there for 2 weeks and you'd be like, just nonstop. And then it's a very intense energy there. I mean, it's beautiful in some levels, but it's intense. And I remember I had it was like a breakdown. I actually had a stress fracture in my foot, and I didn't know I had it. I just thought I was like experiencing some pain, and I was like hobbling around this city on a business trip. And it was right before Christmas. And it was just, there was a moment of, and I remember like staring at these buildings the skyline is beautiful and
it's great. Yeah.
It's intense. And I remember just staring and having this like whole download about so much in the world. And I just was like, I can't do this anymore. And then of course it took, I don't know, another 10 or 15 years to finally like cut the cords. But I remember just being like, I get it. Like, this is not who I am, and this is not what I'm here for. But I love the sharing of these stories and stepping into this medicine. And I love that also it's, that was only what, 3.5, 4 years ago, the pandemic ceremony. And, now you in my mastermind program have launched your first group program. You've taken people down to Peru. You've already filled or have filled a retreat for next year. You've run multiple retreats. You have something. I'm like, you wouldn't even recognize it. I'm like, oh, I should probably hire my own client to learn how to run my own retreats. I've been like putting retreats on the back burner for years, and I'm like, well, maybe this year I'll do it. I don't know. Yeah. But I love it because you're up to so much now. So tell people a little bit about what has, like when you came to me, you'd already been established, but I know you were kind of like, okay, it's like, it's time, next level, like ready to step it up. And, the mastermind is filled with people who are some totally, totally new, and some very much like you, where, you've been established and you're like, I'm ready to get serious and build this into the next level of like really having it support me. And now, I don't think anyone would recognize that it's only been a few years. It's like you're established and you're doing it. But yeah, what was it that you came in like, and what do you think has shifted in you, both professionally and personally, in the last year or a little over a year, that it's been?
Oh my goodness. Wow. Again, that's such a big and juicy and yummy question. So I had been following you for a while and really enjoying your language, your messaging. And I was like, yeah, when the time is right, I'm going to say yes, and we're going to do this. I know for myself that when I make a commitment, first of all, I'm a Capricorn. I'm an eldest child. I get stuff done. I'm a type A. I know it. But there are things that I procrastinate. There's things that I get hard-headed on. And I know that I do really well when I stretch myself with time and treasure, you know, and I work with someone who helps me um, take me to the space that I can't necessarily take myself to in all the ways. So it was, I had been sort of sitting on the fence, just waiting for the right time to join um, the next offering that felt right for me with you. And I came into your group. You know, I spent the last 5 years mentoring other people's projects for free, their programs for free, helping people build their own business. So I've been really good at offering mentorship for other people, but I wasn't necessarily on the receiving end for that for myself. And it was time for me to start building my business in that way. And I'd worked with a private business coach before, but I wanted to try this the group concept, um, and I needed that combination of really good business. We need strong masculine principle. Like we need that. It's not. It can't just all be flowy, right? But I also wanted someone who's understanding the path I am on and respect the fact that I go and I pray. Like pray is actually more important to me than the other pieces. So I knew I'd had a couple of failed. So I had already done some mentorship packages. I'd done that. I knew what I loved. I knew what I didn't like. I'd already done a 12-month container, but I wasn't quite at the level I wanted it to be. It was a little bit more intro to things, and I was doing things. I was creating things based on what I thought other people wanted, rather than what lights me up first and foremost. And exactly, I was afraid. I was afraid to really step in. I was still trying to be a bit beige and mold myself, right? Because I always joke, I'm like, well, I'm not the Instagrammable one. I'm not cool. I'm not all pretty and got the fancy, expensive hat on. You know, like I, I know who I am, and those are some of my shadows showing up for you, right? That's some of my humaning there. So I wanted that help. I wanted that support because I knew I had this next group course that I wanted to really bring to the world, and I just needed help. I didn't realize some of the depth of my money story. And so that's been a big journey. Um, and so I feel like when you find the right mentor or practitioner, they're bringing to you modalities, techniques, teachings that, yeah, they may be new for you, but they're going to help you with, getting your practicalities out there. But the other piece is they're going to bring you your stuff, the inner stuff, the inner standing, the stuff that is there, but you're not really wanting to look at or deal with. So for me, it's been that two-pronged piece walking in your group this year. Um, and super helpful for me to get clear on some of the things I need to do. Like I feel, you and I talk about, I'm a bit of an overachiever. I'm like, you got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. They're like, come on, Rebecca, just simplify it, simplify it. But then my money stuff, like really getting clear on my money stuff and like the story and the inner program that's been running in for me, the value, like for so long I was like, yeah, well, I don't really have that much, or that. So there's been this wonderful journey of me taking myself through a whole nother layer of clearing and releasing. um and the expansion has been great. Like it's been great in the fact that like it's been huge. And I'm not talking about the expansion as like I'm rolling in the dough. The expansion is I've been able to take up the space from a place of um confidence. Like I'm not there was a time I was afraid to really use my voice on some levels. I did a water fast. I sat in ceremony by myself for 3 days in the spring, and I did nothing but drink water and pray. And I was in a cabin in the woods. And that was when I had run this beta course a couple of years back, and I came back to it. Like, that's what I want to do. So I fleshed it all out. It just, like, when you're in those spaces, you can be clear in your channel. And that's when Spirit was like, yeah, you need to, this is for women. And that's where I was really struggling. Right. I don't know if you remember that, Beth, but I was like, no, but I need to create space for all peoples. And no, it's like, okay, I'm getting clear. You know, I have my retreat in Peru is for women, but Spirit's asked me, because of the journey I've been on with my own womb as a woman in the corporate realm. As a cruise director, I was one of the very only, at the time, there were very few women. You know, what you experience as a woman being, you know, all the things. So that's my incarnation in this lifetime. So I know it so well. And so just being in this course this year, this group, helped me to find my voice, to feel safe, to say it's okay for me to hold and create spaces for the female embodiment on whatever that offering is. So I know that sounds kind of long-winded, but that's really the gist of it, I think.
And I love that we're doing this because witnessing your journey has been so beautiful for me. You know, usually when I'm helping clients, I'm like, okay, it's just here I'm serving. But when I help a client who I'm like, oh, I know you so well, like
You do.
because I am the same way. I'm like Capricorn rising and double fire and come from this, you know, like background of you must work hard and a lot of
Yeah.
deep ancestral scarcity that I've spent
Yeah.
freaking like my whole life working on, you know, and
Yeah.
it's to also bring the masculine and feminine into balance. You know, we were talking about off camera. It's like, I don't know if it's about pounding anymore. It never,
Exactly.
you know, it hasn't been serving all of humanity for all these thousands of years. And I think so many are starting to realize this. And then to witness the reprogramming. And I remember saying to you, there were a couple of times, and this is not just you, I say
Yeah.
this to
Yeah.
often a lot of clients where I'm like, look, you know, go talk to a tree instead. Like stop the doing. And it's
Yeah.
scary. It's like even our bodies are like, it's like there's that addiction to like the doing and like
Oh.
that programming around,
Oh.
well, I need to survive, I have bills, and I'm always very realistic. Like, of
Yeah.
course we have bills and of course we have things we need and we need to be supported, but how can this be done sustainably in balance and from this deeper place of like a serious level of deep self-trust and trust in the universe that this is your soul's path. And like anything, you know, it always feels more secure in the kind of corporate world. I mean, I
Yeah.
came from that world too, where it was like, oh, it's a job, and there's a paycheck, and you know,
Yeah.
I'll be
Yeah.
taken care of until you're not, which has happened to a lot of my clients and me. And then it's the same thing in entrepreneurship. The main difference is that now we have this like additional layer of putting all this pressure on ourselves, and it's just not necessary. And you know, it's interesting to watch some of the little initiations you went through this
Oh,
year,
yeah.
which are all very common with so many people in this mastermind and myself as well. It's like we have to sometimes be brought down to our knees to be like, huh, okay, how can I approach life a little different? And
Oh.
I just want to say I'm so proud because, you know, I was like, wait, you filled a group and then you're like off to Peru like a month and
Yeah.
a half later. And I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, amazing. Your first international retreat. And it's no easy thing to just pull off a Peru retreat on top of it. I mean, it's a little
No.
different to go down to maybe Mexico for 5 days, but this
We
was like a
had
full
three
on, yeah.
grandmothers. We had three grandmothers in our, and it was incredible. So for me, we were talking a little bit about retreats before. It's funny. I filled a group, and then I ran a retreat in September for 3 days locally. And then I went to Peru we did a 10-day journey. And really that journey we start in September. We have 3 calls. So we open prayer online. For us, it's all about creating that safety, and we're still in container. We have 3 integration calls post Peru, but the application process was quite deep. We made sure we had, you can't just come. You fill the application. We have meeting, like we connect with you. We want to make sure you feel good with us and we feel good with you, because we're going to spend we're going into a hospital for 10 days. Right. So we want to make sure this is going to be aligned. But we had 3 grandmothers walk with us. So the eldest was 70. And she's younger than all of us. She's like a Palladian princess, I'm telling you. She was incredible. And then the youngest, I think, was maybe 37.
Wow.
So a very rich, beautiful group. We have one woman who, not only a grandmother, but someone who walks with a brain injury, who had an accident 7 years ago. And our medical team, we approved everybody to watch the woman move through those 10 days. Now, this is someone who you typically have to record our conversations, because the short-term memory piece for big nuggets, closed out that experience saying, I'm no longer a woman with a brain injury. I'm a woman who had an accident 7 years ago.
Amazing.
She dropped a label.
I love it.
Yeah, it was just
so powerful.
Yeah, so powerful. And truthfully, we were supposed to do it earlier on. There was things happening in Peru. We couldn't, we had to move it. And I wouldn't have gone through that much of the mastermind, right? So as on my path, spirit is precise. Nothing's by accident. Like my health issues this summer, that was part of my everything, everything. I had to cancel retreat because of it.
And I have to say what was beautiful, and I love working with, most of my clients are like this, but you had an awareness when it was happening, like, oh, Beth, I'm going through this. And I'm like, yeah, it's hard. And there's the compassion and the prayers for you, but then also just the awareness of like, okay, I know there's some gift in this. There's something
huge. We talk about the balance of the masculine and the feminine. So we completed our retreat, and then I went into a 7-day dieta with tobacco. So I have a 4-year promise with tobacco, and I'll do my 4th year here in Canada. I'm bringing the medicine people up to Canada because I wanted to close out the 4-year prayer on land where I live. And they don't tell you till halfway through the dieta what the tree is that you're dieting with the tobacco. And so I was expressing my dreams and all the things, and Jason kept saying, well, this is right. And I finally found out I was dieting with the Renokia,
which I've dieted 3 times.
So, and that's what Renokia is about.
Actually, I take it. I actually work with it now too.
So I just ordered some because I'm going to make some essences and some tinctures, because it's very clear that this is now a new medicine in my field. Yeah. Exactly. And for my clients, for the women, right? The womb, and then the harmony, the balance between our masculine and feminine. It's just, I can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, the first time I was down in the jungle and I saw a Renokia tree engulfing the other tree and how it wraps its, and I had actually worked with it as a tincture because I've had multiple body injuries and things over the years just from my past, and I could feel, before I ever met the spirit, I could feel it in me, and I still feel it. It happens actually fairly regularly now, where I can feel like a and And then when I met it and saw the tree and then met the spirit in a ceremony, I was like, whoa, she is like, whoosh, kind of this hardcore woman.
Yes. And you feel her in her womb. I remember taking one of my first days of taking it. I'm like, oh my God, what's going, it's like I had an alien in my womb, and I hardly purged on that dieta. I think I only purged maybe 3 out of the 7 days. So it was intense on my physiology, but she was doing surgery on me.
Yeah. It's amazing. Oh my God, I love it. Such a deep, deep journey. You're really a true medicine woman. Actually, this is going to be my next question. I'm curious because I make these kind of comments, funny comments about how people on this medicine path make great entrepreneurs, because we're able to sit in the discomfort and through the darkness and the ups and downs. And I'm wondering, from the shamanic perspective, how do you approach your business, and entrepreneurship? Because it is this really deep journey, and there's so much more to it than just, marketing and structure and
Mm-hmm.
steps. And yes, those are important, but it's so much more, especially when you're walking the medicine path. And like your group program is about stepping into your medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you see, people that are stepping into this path of healer, coach, guide, like from this shamanic perspective?
Well, first off, I love being self-employed. She's my baby. And so that's why I have to be mindful of sometimes the unhealed masculine within me, because the workaholic tended, like, I'm like, but I love doing it. Right. So, but how I see it is, I think people, it's funny because people come to my door if they're coming in for an in-person session, they expect me to be in some goddess gear or something flowy, and I'm in a Pink Floyd t-shirt, ripped jeans, and bare feet. I'm like, this is who I am, right? Like, I'm pretty simple, basic. It is balance. And I think, to walk the path of embodied prayer, we need to be grounded. We need to be rooted. We need to be balanced. I'm also a mom and a wife. You know, and so balance is something. When my boundaries are leaky and I'm tired, my boundaries will affect my balance in my business, in my family. I just hired my first PA. I'm very excited because I need someone to help me gatekeep my time, to look at my calendar and say, Rebecca, no, you did too, um, so I really feel shamanically, it's about remembering the balance, you know, and that reciprocity is everything. So for me, being divine roots, being self-employed, for me, it's not about making scads of money. For me, and so my expansion this year has been about my spider web, right? It's been about grandmother spider. Um, I'm very clear on what my mission and service is. Spirit has been very, very clear what I'm here to do. And, one-on-one doesn't allow me to do very much. And I'm going to be 50 in a year. To me, I'm like, I don't have a lot of time. I've got about 50 years and I've got a lot of work to do. And if I step back and go, it's a bit overwhelming because I know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm like, no, I'm just trusting. They're guiding me. They're taking me. So I know that's why I have to do more things, not en masse, but in groups, because that's the ripple effect. If we want to have change now, we need to be supporting as many as we can, right? And that's exactly why your medicine is so important, because so many people on the path maybe don't have a sense of masculine principles, or they struggle with being rooted and grounded, and they're very comfortable up here, right? It's like when you go to sacred places like Peru, like the land, my very first time going there, I was welcome home. I remember the portal. I know exactly where I came through on this incarnation, da 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 da. But she said, don't get stuck. Don't get stuck. A lot of these, look around, look at the people who get stuck here. Your job, all of our jobs, the shaman's job, the medicine person's job, is to go, remember, deepen, and then you go back to the base of the mountain. You have to be in the village, not at the top of the mountain. We have to be in the village, right? So it's like, I think shamanically, for me, the idea of having divine roots, my little business, it's about being in balance with my prayer, with my medicine, but also humaning, because I'm here to be a human. I'm here to take out the recycling. I'm not here to be high on medicine 24/7.
Oh my God, no.
Right? Like, I'm here to, like, embody the prayer. I'm here to make sure when I'm walking my dog, I'm walking with an open heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then also bringing in that idea of, I'm running my business from a place that is of reciprocity. I'm not trying to take too much. I still do a lot of pro bono work. I scale things when people come to me. Anytime I'm hosting any of my Indigenous mentors, I do not take any profit, zero profit, not even the expenses. I mean, I will pay for the rent for the space if I'm doing it but for me, I'm very clear as a sacred ally, as someone who's been blessed to be born into a body of privilege. It's my job to honor the elders, and especially, the Indigenous elders. So like anything I do not make earnings on that belong to Indigenous teachings. So that's what I mean about the balance. Does that make sense?
Yes, so perfect. And I'm so glad you named it about because I speak about this a lot too, especially people on the spiritual path or the medicine path,
Mm-hmm.
looking to just be out here all the time and leave and escape and not really be grounded. And there's actually a lot of that going on out there. And I feel
Yeah.
like to me, it seems to have gotten worse. I mean, it makes sense. The world that we're
Yeah,
in
it makes
feels
sense.
just there's so much energy,
Yeah.
and the real medicine is that it's the embodiment, the grounding, and honestly, this is where I see people's businesses really start to take off too. And there is, it's a lot of the deeper work of like really feeling safe here and feeling held and safe within your body and
Mm-hmm.
trusting. And that it's not an overnight process for most people. But
No.
I'm glad you bring this up because it's true. And this is also why I say, I love working with people who are on this path because at least they're willing to, most people are willing to at least try, do the
Mm-hmm.
work and see like, oh yeah, you're right. Like these are the stories, or this is me and my patterning and how I
Yeah.
operate. And, to hopefully try to shift it around and really be here on earth, because that's the whole point. It's like we're here
Exactly.
to do this work, and it's not just, and luckily I don't attract these people that are like, oh, I'm just here to make a quick buck in the psychedelic
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
I've had like three of those people come in, and they, weed themselves out very quick. But, it really is about like, why are you called to this? Why this path of service? Why are you even wanting to step into this? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's no joke. And it is, like you said, I love being self-employed. It's the most gratifying spiritual journey that I think there is to really like step into your truth. And, I don't think everybody is really gonna be meant to be self-employed, but if that's your truth, to really like do that work, to feel safe and really secure and confident about like, yeah, I am here, I'm doing this. Yes, I'm human, I'm going to make
Yeah.
mistakes, but if you're coming with the right integrity, with the right intention, this is what I always say to clients too, is like, look, like, it doesn't matter what you do or say, as long as your heart is pure and you know it, like everyone will know. And they'll know even if you make a mistake or say something wrong or get canceled or whatever it is, if your intention is pure, it doesn't matter. So I'm so glad you named that, and also named the reciprocity, which is so important. But I want to leave some space for you to talk about what's coming up next. I mean, you have a lot going on in your business. There's so much. I love that I'm like, wait, she's already filled a retreat that I don't even know about, and you're
Yeah.
still in my program. And I'm like, oh, I love it when my clients are just going and creating and things happening, and I have no idea. Like, I'm like, you don't even tell me this was happening, and it's already happened. This is incredible. That's when
I
you know.
haven't even advertised it. Like I haven't even advertised 2024 yet, but it's already 50% sold Peru. So
Huge,
yeah,
huge. And
feels
you're
very
running
good.
your group, and then I think
Yes.
you have
We
a
have
few more
things
things.
happening. I'll be running Stepping In again. So yeah, we'll be opening that up for, the wait list in, January for any women who want to join a community of personal and spiritual growth. You don't have to have a professional shingle to take, some people ask, I'm not a healer. Like, you don't have to be. Stepping into our medicine, I think we need to remember that we all are medicine, right?
Yeah, we're
And
all
yeah, we
healers. Yeah.
all are here on purpose. I had a call with a woman who's a carpenter. She's
Yeah.
training to be a carpenter, and she wants to create a female led conscious, construction. I'm like, yes,
Oh my
more of
God.
this,
I want to
please,
hire her.
universe. Exactly. So it's like, we are all medicine. It's about, and really, it's been so beautiful to walk with these women, the depth that they've been going through. And we do the presence process together. And then I bring in my personal mentors. P.S. I'm calling you in for the summer to come and speak to these ladies.
I would love
But
to.
right. So it's
Yeah.
like, I'm sharing because I don't believe in hoarding and holding on to anything, because we don't own anything. And if anything, I want to be raising people up and bringing, I'm very clear on, I'm here to bring women to join me on the journey and the divine masculine. And so, for example, I got very, very clear in over the last year that I no longer have space to do one-on-one energy healing sessions. I just don't have that time or space to do that. And I was really considering, do I just take that off of my website now? And Spirit was like, no, because you need to still show that you still are walking the shamanic path and all the things. Because I'm still offering like rape ceremonies and shamanic breath work. I'm just not doing the energy sessions. So there's two women who, you know, down the line previously, I was their mentors, but they're in my own lineage of prayer. They're now my colleagues. I'm doing collabs with them. So I'm putting them on my website. They've agreed. So if anybody wants one-on-one healing, here they are. And here's US, here's Canadian. So I believe that's the spider web. We're not here to be in competition with each other. We're here to raise each other up. We're here to support each other and just create one big tree. Right? Like and it's there's 8 billion people in the world. There's enough for all of us to go around. So for me, stepping into your medicine is like I'm so happy with it. I'm so happy with sharing all that I know and helping these women start to remember beyond their programs, beyond their stories, and to start, feeling in. I mean, we did a virtual pipe ceremony a couple weeks ago with the Indigenous grandmother that I walk with. So it's that's going to start in August, but we'll start doing application and calls once we hit the new year. What else? I do have a little nugget that I'm planning to pop out in the spring. We'll probably do a short 8-week course on like sacred boundaries, protection and clearing, and how to safely start opening your channeling. Yep.
My sacred boundaries.
There you go. Yeah, sacred boundaries, right? And that for me is my tobacco. That's the galactic channeling of tobacco on my right masculine hand. So, and then that's my spirit name, and that's the galactic, of my feminine. So it's like these are right. We're all listening.
Yeah.
We're all doing the same thing, just different grocery stores, maybe. And then obviously Peru. If you want to walk with us in Peru, please join us.
Oh my God. I'm like, wait, when's Peru? It's September?
Yeah. October 18th to the 27th. And so what's interesting is with and we'll do that until Spirit tells us not to. So here's the quick story. I want to be mindful of time. But in 2020, was it 2021, when my dear sister and friend Timmy, medicine woman, we were there for a retreat. And we hadn't even gotten to the retreat yet. We were on a bus in Cusco, and it was like, whew, we both got this. We looked at each other. Our eyes were as big as saucers. And we were like, we're supposed to be bringing women here. We're looking at each other. We're like shaking our boots. No, no, no. And it was just, we couldn't stop. So it was very clear in 2021 that that's what was being asked of us. So we decided to come back in 2022. We spent a month. We prayed with the land. We kept asking for permission. Show us. We prayed with the ancestors. We prayed with our teacher. We went with our teacher, Miguel. And we were just, so this whole Peru trip has been channeled. It's divinely channeled. And it's very special. So that we'll never have more than 12 women. It's not about again, this is not about anything but coming to pray and remember.
So beautiful. Oh my God, I love it. Well, we'll have all your information right here in the show notes for everybody to check out. Rebecca, I am Just so proud of you. I am
Thank
so honored
you.
that you trusted in my program, my guidance, the
Absolutely.
mastermind group and community, and really showed up so fully. And oh my God, these are those moments where I'm like, okay, this is it. Like I'm living my purpose, you're living your purpose.
Yeah.
We get to do this together. I also have always I've been working deeply with spider medicine for many years now. And I always
Yeah.
believe in this web of like, no one's above, no one's below. We're all here doing this together,
Yeah.
especially those of us that have this same intention for the world. And it just makes me so happy in the moments, especially in the moments of grief and sorrow and,
Yeah.
questioning like, oh my God, is there even hope? These are the moments where I remember like, okay, wait, there's a lot of great people on earth doing great work and there is hope. And I do believe that I've always been an optimist that we're going to see a big shift, hopefully, in our lifetime. And if not, hey, 7 generations and beyond that. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for this deep
Thank you,
and beautiful work
sister.
that you do. I'm so
Thank you.
honored to have been
Thank
walking with
you.
you. And yeah,
Feels like a
well, I
beginning.
know, I know. It's
I
totally
know. It's like we just opened a
just the beginning.
door. Something's just opened, and I'm just like, I have goosebumps all over me. So
That's,
thank
by the way,
you.
that always happens with the mastermind. As soon as it's kind of over, everybody, it's like a whole new thing starts for everyone. I've
Yeah.
seen the craziest things. Like people will write me a week or two after and be like, oh my God, I just hit like $10,000, or
Yeah.
whatever it was. So be ready. The magic is going to continue and keep growing. Oh, I'm so
Thank you,
proud.
Beth. Thank you for believing in me. I
Oh,
really appreciate it.
thank you.
Mm.